Welcome back to the Frog Bath. Today, I want to talk about building this pond and how we kind of came to the decision to build a garden pond instead of a koi pond, instead of an aquascape pond, in the hopes that maybe that'll help some of you who are thinking about building your own pond. So let's talk about it. So we redesigned this pond really 3 times or so. And when we first got into it, we knew very, very little about it. We thought all ponds like this were called koi ponds. We didn't know about the concept of a garden pond at all. We'd kind of heard of Aquascape, but didn't really know what that was about either. So we did what anybody does. We went online and started looking up how to design a koi pond and how to do a DIY koi pond. And there was a lot of information on there. The koi community is really multifaceted. We started learning about how much koi poop and what a bottom drain is, and how you have to build koi ponds with bottom drains, and about settlement tanks and sieves and skimmers and returns. And it was a bit overwhelming to us, and as we started drawing it out, the pond got bigger and bigger and bigger, and the need for locations to store that equipment, like settlement tanks and stuff, became like more of a problem. Space became more of a premium, right? Because we don't have tons of room up here. And what we kind of quickly learned is that like settlement tanks were a bit old-timey, and that they needed to be so large and the water needed to sit there for so long that the majority of DIY settlement tanks weren't actually doing the things that they were supposed to do. If your water is cycling in and out of your settlement tank very quickly, there's not a lot of settling that's going to go on in there. And so then we started looking at sieves and how that was really modern. And they're very expensive, and they really need to be cleaned out quite a lot. And as you know, our location has a lot of trees. Some people would say you shouldn't build a pond under trees, but this is where we like to hang out, and we love all these sugar maples. We make syrup from them in the winter and in spring, and it just didn't seem like you know, we wanted to just put this out in a place where there are absolutely no trees covering it, because that would make it easier to use a sieve or a very expensive piece of equipment. So we were kind of stuck, and we thought, I guess, you know, we can't really put a pond here, and maybe we can't even afford this project at all. That was about the time that we discovered Aquascape, and we started looking at like their biofalls and looking at videos about people who built things with their biofalls, and they have a skimmer as well. And it seemed like that was the way we were going to go. And we started drawing up the pond plans, and we realized that, well, if we didn't want to keep koi and we wanted to just keep goldfish, then maybe we didn't even need a bottom drain, and we could probably do the whole thing with just a biofalls and a skimmer. The thing is, a biofalls and a skimmer and all that plumbing, like, that was not super cheap either. And we'd kept some large fish tanks, so, you know, there's nothing really that different between a biofalls and like a typical hang-on back filter that you would use in an aquarium setting. And so we were kind of stuck again, being like, well, do we really want to spend this much money? It's kind of just an aquarium filter. And then we started hearing about people that needed to get all the rocks taken out of their pond and power washed, and how there are all these services and things that you can do. Some people would say should do. Some people might even say have to do if you have an aquascape pond. And that reminded us a lot of keeping big fish tanks. And that's not really what we wanted to be doing. We got out of keeping big fish tanks for those reasons. Kind of takes away from enjoying the animals and nature a little bit, at least for us. And that is when we found the garden pond forum online. And we learned that there is a total other way to build ponds. And there's a thing called a bog filter, and that you can keep goldfish in there, and that you don't have to winterize your pond really at all. It can just run all season. And all of these things were really controversial, like based on everything else we'd read, right? Everything up to that point we had heard, you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to have all this stuff. And so to read that and see that and actually see people doing it with these beautiful ponds, it just kind of blew our minds a little bit. And the more we read and researched, we saw people, even in our hardiness zone, kept their ponds running all winter without a lot of plastic. I mean, obviously the liner, you know, rubber liner and everything, without a lot of plastic materials that could crack, without worrying about what could happen to it without having to deep clean it, without having to put chemicals in it. And they had beautifully clear water, and it ran all the time, and it attracted animals. And that's what we wanted, right? We wanted that experience when we said that we wanted to put, at the time, what we thought was a koi pond in our yard. And now we know that, this is a garden pond, and it's a totally different vibe. So if you are looking to attract animals like frogs and birds and insects to your area, and then, maybe even put some fish in there and see them living their lives, a garden pond might be for you. And as we've covered, it does not have to be super duper expensive. We're going to talk about bog filtration in a separate video, but I want you to know, if you're thinking about building a pond, there's more than just Aquascape. There's more than just koi ponds. Garden ponds and bog filters are absolutely a viable alternative. And depending on what you're trying to get out of your pond, could be a perfect answer for you. So do a little bit more research, and maybe you'll come to the same conclusion that we did. It's worked out great for us.